let them take over. Hey guys, how's your Monday?
Hey, Scott, thank you very much. Happy Monday, everybody. Steve, happy Monday to you as well. How's it
Indeed,
going
Jamie.
on
Yep.
your side of the country?
Good. Feels more like a Tuesday for me because I'm taking Friday off. So yeah.
Aha, a little, well, I can probably guess what you're going to be doing on Friday. Maybe it involves a white little ball.
Possibly.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. Today is right about the middle of March, so welcome to another edition of Office Hours. I'll be your host, Jamie Hodge, and of course, got my trusty wingman, Steve Gomez, in here as well. So before we get going here, just a quick legal ease, make the lawyers sleep a little bit better. Of course, we're all big boys and girls in here. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of the fact that all the information that we share with you guys is for informational, or what you could say educational purposes only. Meaning if you need investment advice, what to buy, when to sell it, all that good stuff, please do yourself a favor, seek out someone who is licensed to do that type of recommending, someone like a registered investment advisor, RIA, or a Series 7 licensed stockbroker. So once again, nothing that we share with you is investment advice, but for educational purposes only. All right, always like to take a little bit of time here at the top of the hour to talk about the community that we fostered around the award-winning tech that is Trade Ideas Pro, Barry, and the trading room. Barry opens the doors 30 minutes before every open. It is a great place to be. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner, intermediate, or a grizzled pro. All right, there's lots of good information flowing in the room from Barry and the other longtime users in there. And the great thing about the room, other than Barry, of course, is the price, which is free. Okay, so if you've shopped around, none of the trading rooms out there worth their salt are free, but ours is. It's just one of the added benefits that you get when you're part of the TI family. Of course, myself and Steve are going to be at the controls on the Monday 5 p.m. Eastern webinar slot. Steve's going to grab the steering wheel tomorrow, and he's going to ride shotgun with him for the trade of the week, which was off to a great little start today, Steve. Wednesday, we changed it up a little bit. Dan, our CEO and founder, along with our Chief Technical Officer, Brad Williams, for the Q&A demos on Wednesdays. Then Andy's going to round out the 5 p.m. Eastern slots on Thursday with Trading Studio. I'm going to ride shotgun with him. And of course, we have our daily support session, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 p.m. Eastern and going for a full hour, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. A great place to get any question TI related answered in real time with a real person, and a nice visual up there as well. So the next slide here will show you how to get to the live support session. Just notice the address in the bottom left-hand corner there, trade-ideas.com/live. That's a static address. So once you get there, you can bookmark it for easy reference. So if you haven't been attending the support session, you have any types of questions regarding Trade Ideas Pro, alert windows, top list, Brokerage Plus, then just come join us for that live 1 hour session every weekday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. In addition to that, as far as educational resources go, the Trade Ideas University is a great 4-part video series, 101 through 401, and you can easily access this series of videos by going over to YouTube, finding the Trade Ideas YouTube channel, and just simply typing in TI University. Especially if you're a new user, parts 1 and 2 are really helpful at getting you a basic understanding of all the basic types of functionality, and it will really help you get over that learning curve a lot quicker than not watching these videos. So if you're new and you haven't done so just yet, get on over to the YouTube channel, find TI University, give it a watch. You'll be happy that you did. And here we are, today's agenda. Some interesting market action today, Steve. Tiny bit of a gap up, and then some inchworm market action, finishing close to the highs today. So if you're ready, Steve, I'll kick it on over to you and talk a little bit about those larger tracking ETFs. And there you go.
All right. I really don't know what the heck happened at the close. Maybe all the people were opening up their new stimulus checks at once. I don't know, but that was a common theme there that appears at the close. If I look at the IWM real quick, there we go. IWM, yep, big old spike at the close, and NASDAQ, big old spike, not too bad. But what I do want to call out is I always remember where I was last week. And last week, I was saying I had cleared the decks, and it's almost a microcosm of kind of what happened prior to. Let's see here. It's almost, for me, when we got into this area, I cleared the decks for my longs, and then I realized, oh shoot, looks like we're not going down. This area here said, I guess we're going back up, so I better start looking for setups again. So I participated in the market again. And then once we got into this crazy stuff, I remember last week I drew something what we called a megaphone pattern. It's expanding megaphone, or maybe even the dog cone of shame when it comes home from the vet. But regardless, either way, when these things resolve, they're even more definitive to trust. So here we are again. Being defensive basically kept me out of the volatility, which is fine, but it also kept me out of a possible decline. But it appears it doesn't matter. The stimulus checks are on their way. The Fed finds a way to say happy words just when they're needed, and the market moves higher. Now, another big comment here this week is rotation. We talked a lot about how the NASDAQ tech-driven rally outperformed since the bottom of COVID there. But the tech-driven rally has kind of run out of steam, at least over the little 10% correction we did get. And 10% corrections are very healthy for continuation of trends. But we noticed that why isn't the NASDAQ back at all-time highs? Because the SP is the benefactor of the rotation that we're getting into energy and financials, especially retail. The online stuff is kind of passe. That was 2020. And so the big money is literally moving and rotating. If you've been hearing that word and you're a new trader, rotation is a sector focus where one sector was strong, as I was saying, this is technology, rotating into other sectors. These 401ks are giant ships and they're pointed north. They're not designed to short sell the market. They've got to put their money somewhere. And when the Fed pretty much squeezes the balloon and makes everybody put their money into equities to get a decent return, well, here we are. So you can't fight it. So I'm back to looking for, I'm in 4 or 5 long positions now over the last couple of days, just trying to reestablish jump rope, my little surfing session, as you will, and participate in a market that appears to want to go higher. So there's the S&P. They are now leading us when the NASDAQ has been leading us before. Matter of fact, the Dow, I haven't looked at that in a while. You talk about rotation into the ugly value stocks, that's where your value stocks and dividends and grandpa stocks, they're starting to shine. Obviously, they have been for a couple of weeks now. So another great example visually of the rotation that is occurring. So if you're wondering why your EV vehicles and your LiDAR and your other technology stuff isn't really playing, well, it's got some work to do still here as we look. Still below the 50-day moving average and barely got above the 20 today. But that's not to say the NASDAQ probably won't find a way to fight its way through that and start to bring up the rear. But bringing up the rear is not something really the NASDAQ has been talked a lot about in the last year. It's not really used to being in that position, but that's where we are because we've had market rotation. And yeah, I'll talk tomorrow about more of the Under Armour trade of the week, working pretty decent so far and not doing a whole much after hours, a little bit higher a minute ago, but no real fireworks after hours. So we'll talk more about that one tomorrow when I do my webinar. But if you're short, it didn't work out. If you were on the sidelines like I was in cash, you got to get back in to participate until further notice. And that's really all I got.
Good stuff, Steve. Thank you very much. Let me grab the baton back here. All right, should have eyes back on my screen now. So yes, as Steve was mentioning, rotation is the theme and still continues to be the theme. If everybody remembers last week, we talked about that, showed you guys a top list, and we're going to revisit that top list towards the latter part of the presentation here. Also noticed some other interesting things. I mean, the same thing that turned me on to it last Monday is still occurring. But before we get to that, compare count readings, they were a little, well, I tell you what, these were the readings today after the first 15 minutes. And for those of you who might not be familiar with this metric that I like to consult here, this is just one of my compare count windows. And what it's doing is it's looking at stocks with a market cap in excess of $4 billion, hitting high and hitting, or stocks hitting highs and hitting lows in the opening 15 minutes. Many times this can be a good tell as to what the rest of the session might have in store. Of course, it's no guarantee. Every once in a while it has a misfire. But typically, when these readings are this strong, we either have two types of action. So I'm just going to push that down, pull the SPY back here on the intraday, and we got the 15-minute candles that we're looking at right here, this being the opening candle for the day right here. And we can see two things usually play out. Either after this first 15-minute candle, we take a move in the direction of the bias, which today was pretty strong, 67% bullish after the first 15 minutes, which is a pretty strong reading. Typically, once it gets above 55% is when I start paying closer attention, above 60, above 65, which is why I was a little flummoxed today. I'm like, well, I guess it just isn't going to work today. But what is the other alternative? Sometimes it's a little bit of a delayed reaction after the first 15 minutes for about the first 2 hours. We took a little cycle down here, bottoming out perfectly with pretty much the low of the prior day before we got this, not only the snap back, but new highs later in the day. And as Steve was pointing out, that nice little push with some significant volume going into the close. So it was just a little bit of a delayed reaction today. But in the end, the bulls did win out. So interesting action from these readings today. And just want to remind everybody, not only do we have the FOMC meeting, I think they start today, tomorrow, and the next day. You know, they're going to get up there and flap their gums about printing more money and how inflation's not a thing. And in addition to the FOMC, we've got quad witching going on this Friday. So that's a little bit different than just regular options expiration. Quad witching happens 4 times a year, March, June, September, December, where not only do stock index futures expire, the futures, the stock index options, stock options, and single stock futures all expire on this Friday. So just keep that in mind as the week progresses. You know, we got the FOMC flapping, and then we have quad witching, which can kick in for a little bit of volatility, so to speak. It's nothing to be scared of, but it's just something that you want to keep in the back of your mind as the week progresses there. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how the AI performed today, which nothing to write home about, but didn't get absolutely murdered or anything today. A couple of really good things to point out here. And typically what I like to talk about is there any conservative and moderate spread to be had? Were there any add-on opportunities? And were there any trade arounds? Okay. Not a whole lot of moderate versus conservative spread. In order to have that, looking at the moderate column here, we like to see a bigger number in the moderate profit column than we do over here in the conservative by the end of the day, or whatever point in time during the day. But as we can see here, conservative one out here, smaller value here, same here, just a little bit of spread here, but nothing really to write home about. Keep in mind, all the values that we see here in my AI trades panel are all based around risking $100 per trade, okay? So risking 100 to end up making 30, that is a considerable difference between 0 and 30, but as we can see up here from the chart, the highlighted area is where Holly got out of the trade, right about here. Just put a little mark there. And if we would have ignored that signal, we would have got a little bit more juice, but it was just kind of a sideways chop fest going into the close. So not really anything to write home about there. The other thing, as far as Well, not a whole lot of conservative moderate spread. And in these patterns today, not a whole lot of add-on opportunities either. Sometimes we get these nice consolidated type patterns after the AI signals the entry. They're just not on the menu today, probably a function of market activity. So no conservative and moderate spread to speak of, not really any good add-on opportunities, which leaves the last thing here, a trade around, okay? So typically a trade around is something that got stopped out, but keyed off of the stop area and allowed us to participate. The only one on the radar that fits that bill today, if we look at the aggressive profit column, these were all stopped out, losing relatively close to $100. But look over here on this SGLB. This was the trade around of the day. It's the best trade I've seen in quite a while. Simply because, and you know what, this all happened so quickly after the initial AI signal. Gonna have to shrink this down to 5-minute candles to be able to see it well. All right, so here we go, right here. This signal came up pretty early in the day. Let's see, about 9 minutes and 17 seconds into the open, we get that nice little buy signal right there and that second 5-minute candle. And then in the following one, we take a little dip down and get stopped out. Now, it wasn't that big of a stop. Sometimes they hold, sometimes they don't. Let me see if I can make this a little bit more legible here. Okay, but as you can see, 5-minute candle where the entry happened, following 5-minute candle, we get stopped out only to see it turn and burn and go a little bit higher. Now, this doesn't look like a big move, but considering the fact that the AI signal came down here at 610 and up here we were already at 762, that is a pretty good percentage move. All right. Now, how did the stock act around this stop area? Well, we can see it here and bear kissed it. That stop level was 590. The low of that candle was, actually the low of this candle was 586. So it got us by 4 cents on this one. All right. But wicked right through, sellers could not keep control. And then we just motored on up. So this was a great trade around, taking that trade, seeing the AI get stopped out. If it would have spent time below that stop area, would have just dismissed it, but it just wicked back down, barely touched it, unlike what you see over in some of these guys, right? Of course, this is a short sell, so we're going the other way. AI calls the short right here, or excuse me, right here, gravitates up to the stop level, spends a lot of time well above it, okay, and chopped around it most of the day. So if you get candle closes outside of that stop area, then it's not really worth spending a whole lot of time around. Ruby was another one, but it just spent a little too much time below that stop area to have any interest moving forward. Even though it did come back up and eventually head higher, if they spend too much time underwater under that stop area, then I don't really pay any attention to it. But clearly, look at the difference between Ruby and then what we had here in SGLB. Just a little kiss, and then right back above. Even gave us one more chance here. Let's say we missed this nice little move up. Well, didn't take too long for it to come back down, kiss that entry level one more time, and that's where you got the biggest move of the day, from 610 up to a high of 976. So this little move was great, but boy, on that second retrace of the entry signal, from 610 all the way up to almost $10, what a nice percentage move on SGLB today. What sector were they in? Software publishers. But ladies and gentlemen, we talk about volume all the time, but man, when you see volume like this, it's always a good idea to keep an eye on that stock in some of these crucial levels, because finishing the day at 732, don't think I've seen one that high in quite a while. 284 million shares trading hands today, and there's only 7.3 in the float. Wow, that is some that's some float turnover right there. Biggest one I've seen in quite some time. So that's really about it for Holly, just kind of a tread water day. And of course, all the values over here are based on trading 100 shares, whereas all of my values here are based on trading, risking $100. All right, Raza, I don't know why you might not be able to see the chart. Hopefully everybody else is not having that issue. But if you're having trouble with either the visuals or the audio, sometimes it helps if you log out of the webinar and just come back in. That might fix your problem there. All right, moving right along here. If I can get my clicker to work, bear with me. Okay, so handed out a top list to you guys that I thought might be helpful in identifying stocks that were in this rotation that Steve was alluding to earlier. All the big tech stocks are getting sold off, profit taking, and rotation into several other sectors. Okay, so this is the list that was handed out last Monday. Okay, rotation, SMA values, and the idea was spawned not only because everybody was talking about it through the FinTwit universe and other means, but this window here, which is one of my favorites, my turbo up family no resistance last Monday, was going pretty bonkers. And everything that was hitting new all-time highs, which is what this window is showing us, thus the term no resistance, so that when we look at these things on the daily, when we look to the left, we're not going to really see anything for it to run into once all-time highs are broken. But last Monday, as well as all week, all the things coming through here were the same old sectors: manufacturing, information, which is also broadcasting. They just like to call Disney and all these other media companies information companies these days. So manufacturing, retail, finance, and information, okay? And today, if you check out all the symbols coming through here, we're getting the same the same sectors showing up, so that trend is continuing. Now, how long does a rotation of this nature last? You never know. But for now, it is continuing. Now, you might be asking why the different colors in this window. The green ones are the big cap boys, 4 billion in excess market cap or higher. The blues are between 2 and 4 billion, and the yellow ones are the smaller caps of 2 billion or lower. Doesn't necessarily mean they won't move, but just like to color code mine that way. So we still have all of these stocks hitting all-time highs today on this top list here. And by the way, I'm just going to pop in here because I think I forgot to do this last week. The symbol list are all of the symbol lists that come resident in the system. So I'll be handing these windows out again today, and you don't have to worry about checking these off. Finance and insurance, information, manufacturing, and retail trade, okay? Now, Steve mentioned the oil stocks as well. I just haven't included them in this top list, but you can always add that list later on. Just didn't want to get it too crowded in here. And on this list, I'm showing currently 300 stocks. Of course, you can always expand this this list to as many stocks as you want. You just don't really want to get too many on there. Once you get past 500, 600, 700, when it goes to refresh that list every 30 seconds, it can bog your system down, which is why I'm only sticking with 300. That gives me plenty of things to look at. All right, so let's revisit this guy. Now, a couple of just different columns I've installed across the top here: the moving averages, the 10, the 20, and the 50. You know, you might be a 20 period person. I like the 10. You might be a 50, but they're all up there just for easy reference. Position and lifetime range. If we have the cylinder all the way to the right, then what you're going to notice is these stocks hit all new all-time highs today. That's why we have the bar all green. But as I pointed out last Monday, these are the ones that I'm typically focusing on here. All right, ones that are close. We don't have the solid green bar. We got a little bit, tiny bit of daylight over here on the right margin, which lets us know they're close. And that way we can come in here and kind of mark up the ones that we find appealing, like this VAR looks kind of interesting today. Would have liked to have seen kind of the reverse of this closing candle with the green part up top, but I think you get my drift here. We got a nice little tight consolidation going on here. Of course, it's always interesting or always pertinent, I would say, since we are, we do have earnings creeping up on us. Some of these are going to be closer, April 28th, plenty of time to get in there and see what happens, but always something that you want to pay attention to as well. But the bottom line is this list has shown me some pretty interesting setups over the course of last week, since last Monday, and continues to do so today. And I've only applied a few filters to this list, which, other than the basic stuff, we're using earnings per share to weed out the ETFs and iShares since they don't report. Got some generic pricing, minimum maximum here. And this is one that kind of, thins the herd. In the position and lifetime range, we have to be in the upper 5%, which gives us a little room to filter through and pick out the ones that might be appealing to us. Okay, so let's do a little exercise here. Now, here we have the live list, or was live during market hours. But how did, let's take a peek at how the close was last Friday, and then come in here and take a look at how some of these stocks finished. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to duplicate the window. And now we're going to pop back into historical data mode, and we're going to go back to the 12th. That was last Friday. So we want to see last Friday, about 5 minutes before the, and that should do it. Okay, so once again, this is the real-time version on the left, which I haven't really messed with. This is how the list looked at the close, last 5 minutes of the close last Friday. All right, so if we start scrolling through here, here was Friday, this guy's continuing. And I was pointing this out, I mean, VIAC and disc A and B, oops, if I can type properly. I mean, these things have just been in fuego. Yeah, disc A, the A shares, okay? I mean, these broadcasting stocks are just motoring on up. VIAC continues. Where does it stop? Nobody knows. That was a nice little kind of topping wick that we had today. Gee, what happened at that last big topping wick back here on 127? That's when we did get a little bit of a pullback. So I tell you what, I will be keeping my eyes on VIAC after this little topping wick here, just to see. Never can tell. Even in a bull market, things like to pull back. So VIAC is definitely going to be on my watch list tomorrow. If it looks weak, it might be one to take a little bit of pullback. We'll see here.
I guess people are watching TV, and that's valuable now, more than ever, huh?
Yes, Steve. The
Viacom.
TV is now more valuable than ever.
Discovery, Viacom, all these.
And I love how it's an information company, like Disney. Never really thought of Disney as an information company, but hey, what do I know? So the reason I wanted to show you guys this, and as opposed to real time, is okay. Another one, Air C. Here was the close Friday. Did it continue after it got out of its little top here? Yes, it did. How about this guy? Well, this guy popped out on Friday, but he's deciding he wants to take a little bit of a nap here. Okay, so the bottom line is this. You're going to notice some continued as we anticipated, right? Especially the ones that were forming a nice little shallow base there and, didn't have too much to go. Some are going to be highly extended, but the bottom line is you can see some continue and some do not. Some are going to pull back. Not really seeing a whole lot off the top of this list.
Do you see Dish Network?
Dish? This guy?
Yeah, that's it. Everybody's just sitting at home watching TV.
Yeah, networks are hot right now. Information, TV, if you want to call it. But the bottom line is this. Some are going to continue, and that's great if you placed a long bet. But some of these guys are going to go up, and they're going to pull back a little bit. They're not all going to go straight up, okay? Going back to what I said earlier, I'm more of a 10-period guy on the daily. So it's great if these things continue, but what if I get into a position, number one, when I'm playing these longer term breakouts to all-time highs, especially with the market conditions that we've had, you may have heard us say this time and time again, not going in with full lots, just getting what I like to call starter lots. If they go, great, might pick a time later to try to add to them if they remain strong. But what about the ones that pull back, which I think the majority of the ones typically here lately, they're going to take a little bit of a pullback from what I've seen. It's always nice to get into the ones that rocket straight up, like Disc or Viacom, but these are the exception and not the norm, all right? So half lots on opening positions or waiting until we get a pullback to the 10 period to do a full lot so we can assess that risk. So the bottom line is this, just sorting from the 10 period as the day is, when we're in the regular session and finding the smaller values, right? To see which ones, I think that's a buyout though, that FRTA. But I went through the list and I curated some of the ones that I pulled from the list today just to show you guys. So let me consult my list here. All right, so TCF, okay. Here was Friday and we had a little bit of a down move, but look what it's doing. It's pulling right back down to, pulled right back down to the 10 period today. And then we got a little lift and a higher close off that 10 period. So this is one that I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on for the next session. And of course, what do we do here so we don't forget about it? We set some price alerts. So, and each one of these is going to be a little bit different as to when you set that price alert. Might be the high from Friday. If we look back over here, this high was 49.46. That high was 49.50. So you just pick the larger of the two. So if I was going to set a price alert here, I'd just say, let's go ahead and set it at 49.50. Set that price alert, PB to the 10. Prior all-time high. I'm not going to put ATH in there, but we could just call it the rotation list, the ROT list, right? So you'll have a nice price alert for tomorrow in case TCF get the bounce off that 10 period, firm up tomorrow. We could easily be popping new all-time highs in TCF tomorrow. All right, so quite a few on this list today. H-band, looking very similar. And I tell you what, let me just get my price alerts up here because I might as well just hand these out when I'm done typing them in, and we will track them moving forward. Give me 1 second here. That's the first one for today. Let me clear the decks on these other ones. Okay, so that's one, that's TCF. Next on the list, H-band, okay. Now, I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna continue to set these price alerts, but I've also created another companion window for this top list, all right? So before we're done today, I will drop the top list cloud link into the chat, as well as the companion alert window that I've created for it too. So we've set the price alert for TCF. All right, just gonna mark where I am on my list. And before we set the rest of these price alerts, just gonna show you guys, all I did to create this alert window is right click, collaborate the filter settings into the alert window. That gets all the filter settings in there, and then we have to come through and pick an alert, okay? So I just picked more of a contrarian alert. If it is pulling back to the 10 period SMA, probably a new high would be a good alert to do that with, right? You'll see here the filter set is exactly the same as the alert window, or excuse me, as the top list window over here. Now, change from the 10-day, I believe is the only thing, unless I have that in here too. Okay, so keep in mind, there's nothing about the 10-day in the top list. We're using it as a reference as a column. So in the alert window, what I did is I just simply put a max value in there of 1%. Can't be any higher than 1%. Therefore, it's going to get us the ones that are close. keep in mind, you might pull some of these up that might be too far below, which kind of defeats the purpose. But if you see that, you'll know that that's not a good candidate anyway. We want to see action like we see in TCF, a pull down to the SMA, but not a penetration or a close below it, okay? So H-band was the next on my list. It just happened to come through the alert window today as well. And we can see the same type of action. Not too crazy action up here, a little sideways, just coming down here and kissing that 10 period. So let's set a price alert for that one as well. And we could use Friday's high, which would be 1676, or we could go back here, go a little higher. Yeah, let's use this one, 1684. And this is our 10 period rotation list. All right, next on the list, PNC. Okay, notice what we have here. Prior high, little selling today. What did it do? It came down here and kissed that 10 period and right back up. So on this one, I think we'll use the high of Friday, which will be 181.53. So we'll go 181.54. And 10 period rotation. That's the exclamation point, I think. There we go. All right. Let's see. EWBC. Same type of action. We got the nice little doji on Friday. A little bit of selling today. Kissing that 10 period. So we use the high of Friday as well. 78.54, a penny higher. All right, good. We don't have any executions in the post market yet, so that's good. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next on the list, UCBI. Same old song, same old dance. It actually hit that, exceeded that high Friday today, but pulled back pretty good, but still closed well above the 10 period here. So we're gonna use the high of the day, 36.66 for this guy. All right, UCBI, a few more of these to go. AMP. Yeah. A little bit further away from that all-time high than the others. I don't know if I like that one so much. I mean, it's not bad. We'll go ahead and do one for the high of Friday's high. This one a little bit pricier, 229.43. We'll go ahead and throw it in there. Rotation 10 period. All right, no execution there. DFS is next. All right, a nice little long wick right through the 10 period and then right back up. Yep, so we're gonna use, kind of tempted to use Thursday's high on this one, get us in a little bit earlier. Why not? We'll use 103.41 on this one. And of course, just a little reminder, everyone, when you see these alerts fire off, obviously you don't want to just jump in blind. Always take a moment, make sure earnings aren't the next day. Take a look at your single stock window down here, see if it's doing good relative volume, if you like high volume and things of that nature. So just remember, these are alerts. They're not automatic jump ins. All right, VOYA, of course, financials. Nice little kissy kiss on the 10. We're just going to take the high of that candle right there, 64 and 99. All right, we got 2 more left here. SFNC. All right, got that nice little kiss down to the 10 period. We're going to use the high from Friday. That's going to be 33 and 44 as the alert. All right, and lastly on the list, we got CNHI. All right, this guy, I think on this one, the high from Thursday, 15 and 59. All right, and great. Didn't get any post-market executions there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 price alerts for you guys to keep an eye on come tomorrow, along with the top list and the companion alert window. Now just keep in mind, do both things. As the day is underway tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just watch the list. Then you might want, depending on which moving average you like, if you're a 10 period person at any point in time of the day, you just sort by this one, find the ones that are really close to the 10 period, give them a good eyeballing, figure out if you want to make a price alert out of them. And you're going to notice things coming through the alert window as well. A little bit different of activity than the sort and peck and hunt that we're going to have going on in the top list. And not everything that you see come across, not everything on the list here, obviously you're going to see come across in the alert window. But the good news is you shouldn't be inundated either, okay? So if you just kind of scroll through the list today, we get down to the bottom pretty quick here, and you're going to have some repeats as these things are using the new low. But just watch how they react around that 10 period. ETN came through pretty early in the day. We got Dow coming through. Dow, not exactly the close that I'd like to see there, right? So when you get these alerts, you're probably going to want to wait and see, do they start to retrace off that 10 period? Of course, if you just jump in there and take the trade, you better make sure that it doesn't close too far below that 10 period, or come up with a good percentage value away from that 10 period that you'd like to set those trades if you're going to be trying to catch them right at that 10 period bounce, okay? So between these 2 windows and some price alerts, should give you some pretty good things to take a look at for the next session. Let me just make sure that this is on real time live. And this one is set up by relative volume as far as the color gradient, in case anybody is wondering about that. So without further ado, let me just get all these windows dropped into the chat panel here. All right, there's the rotation top list. Rotation alert window, 10 period, or PB to the 10 period. And lastly, let me grab these price alerts for you guys. All right, so all three links are in there. You got the rotation top list, rotation alert window, the pullback to the 10 period, along with some price alerts for the rotation plays. And of course, just common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously if the market turns red and starts tanking tomorrow, you'll probably want to be very, very selective. Okay, not saying the market is going to do that, but you never know. But based on the close today, might not be in the cards. So if we have a market like we did today, just kind of lackluster, or an upward market, then you should be able to find some pretty good plays, whether it be through the top list, the alert window, or maybe some of these alerts pan out as well. We shall see tomorrow. Oh yeah, George, I'm sorry. PB means pullback. So when I say PB to the 10, or if I notate something as PB to the 10, it just means the stock is taking a pullback, but to the 10 period. So just to kind of illustrate that again, H-band hit all-time highs. Well, that's not the best example. Let's look at, yeah, so TCF touched all-time highs Friday, but then it took a pullback. In other words, it did not keep going. So when we use the term pullback, it refers to a stock that's been going up, but now it's taken a pullback, and it pulled back just shy of the 10 period there. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to mention this, but I forgot about it. I'm using new high here, but I was thinking to myself, you know what? Pullback might not be so bad as well, a pullback alert. So let's just do a little experiment real quick here. Instead of using the new low, what if we used 25% pullback from highs from the open? Would we get a much different complement of tickers? And to find that out, let's just take a look at the history from the new low. And then this is the pullback. Let me just confirm that this is the pullback alert. Yep, get rid of new high. Will we get many different symbols? All right, so let's take a look at what TROW did today. Okay, there's another interesting one. All right, TROW, don't know if it came through this one, because TROW was the very last stock that came through on the pullback. That's the same type of action that we want on the 10 period. Seeing some other symbols come through this one that did not come through this guy today. So just keep in mind, you can easily add the 25% pullback alert and have new low and the 25% pullback from highs in there as well. Or you can just have a separate window. So I tell you what I'm going to do here before we conclude. Just going to rename this one. "25% PB from highs," whereas the other window was just looking at a daily low. So a couple of different ways to find these. So I'll go ahead and drop that in there as well. PB to the 10, alert window. But 25% PB alert as opposed to new low. Okay, so I do believe that should give you guys plenty of stuff to look at for the remainder of the week. Looks like we're butting up against the top of the hour here. So having said that, Steve, do I need to backtrack and answer any questions here? Let me take a look at the questions panel.
Looking good.
All right. And Sanjay, the question regarding E-Trade brokerage platform, don't know for certain yet, but it is getting pretty close compared to where we were 2-3 weeks ago. Getting a lot of the major bugs worked out, so can't give you an exact date yet, but it's getting close. And as the developers say, it's ready when it's ready. But as soon as it's ready, by all means, we will pass the word along to you guys. Okay, all right. Just checking out the questions panel one more time here. George, when you use you're talking about one of the momentum windows, right? Seems like the train's already left the station. Yeah, and you know, that's something Steve and Andy and all the other trainer guys at the firm here, we get that a lot because, you know, in essence, all boils down to timing, right? So if the train's already left the station, you know, there's probably some coming through that have not left the station. And that's just one of the things about trading in general is, yeah, you have to have a good setup. And of course, all boils down to timing. You know, it's kind of like the stop out that we saw in SGLB today, right? The timing was just a little bit off. So what I'll say to that, there's an old saying that we've been using for many years, and it was around before we were, and that is missed money is better than lost money. So, you know, I don't know if your scan can be tweaked to, you know, say, okay, if it's too far past a certain point, don't show it to me. So yeah, it's just about timing and making sure that you're watching the window. And a lot of the times if these alert windows are real busy, then it's hard to keep track on everything coming through. So if you can modify your scan to make them not too far past the point that you're interested in, or reduce the amount of alerts coming through, I'd say those are two of the things that I would try. And if you still have issues with it, well, you can always reach out to us at info@trade-ideas.com, and we could always see if we could help you out there. All right, Scott, top of the hour's here. Content is done. If you are ready to walk us out, sir, let everybody know how they can save a little bit of dough on a new sub or an upgrade. I think it's about
Yeah, sounds good. So a couple things on the way out. Keep in mind to grab that earnings ebook. It's going to be going soon. Go to tradeideas.com/earnings, put in your email address, and get that. It's free, and it's got some great downloads in there for you that you can just add directly to your layout. Just grab those cloud links that are embedded in the PDF. You can find our podcast at Trade Ideas Podcast. We've got some episodes out this year that have some good interviews, also some previous eps, and we will have more soon. So subscribe and get the next one as soon as it's ready to download. Check out the previous ones. The code opportunity will save you 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas, or upgrade from standard to premium. So grab that, use it this month before it expires. You can find Jamie on Twitter at QuantBot. You can find Steve at Today Trader. We've also got at Trade Ideas. Trade Ideas Pro is the Facebook handle. And if you have any questions, send them to info@tradeideas.com. That goes into our help desk software and gets routed to a team member who can help you out as quickly as possible. So the recording of the session will be up later on tonight or tomorrow. So stay tuned tomorrow for an email update with a link to the playlist where you can find it. Thank you, everyone, and Jamie and Steve, have a nice rest of your afternoon.
Yep. Thanks, everybody, for popping in. Thank you, Scott. Steve, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yep.